the political climate as we speak, as well as, public sentiment, the way it has evolved since Tinubu was declared president. What would you say was the defining point of the 2023 elections? And if you can also point out key events that defined the journey before the elections.
Well, I would like to say, you see, as a political scientist, I have been able to carry bags for politicians in this country. We know them after their names and where they come from and what they represent in the politics they play. We see some people play the politics of conduit pipe, and we see some people play the politics of not even understanding the democracy that we want to build in our country. And we have seen people who won elections not being declared by INEC. We have seen people who had voters' card not being opportune to vote. We have seen the illegality, the criminality of the 2023 presidential elections in the reflex of issues where even INEC itself violated its laws, and we have not seen any authority calling them to order. And we have seen where the former president, in the capacity of Muhammadu Buhari, suspending the Constitution of Nigeria to force an individual who did not even meet the criteria by the result released by INEC to be declared as a president-elect. Because in the Electoral Act that we used in conducting the 2023 presidential election, it says that everyone who will be declared as president-elect in this election must score 25% of votes in 23 states and the FCT. That does not need a court case for us to describe what that means. But Peter Obi, according to the result release, did not make 23%. Did not make 25% in 23 states. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of the PDP also did not make 25% in the FCT. Likewise, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who is now president, did not make 25% in the FCT. So practically what we expected from the INEC leadership was to review the results before announcing an illegal result. From our side of as students of democracy, we know and we put it to the world that whosoever was declared president-elect in the 2023 presidential elections, according to the results released by INEC, is an illegitimate president-elect. Because the three people presented as first, second, third did not even meet the criteria, the requirement of the Electoral Act to be declared as president-elect. And the Electoral Act also gives us the opportunity to review those results collated, which we did not see. All we saw was an announcement of an illegal declaration of Ahmed Bola Tinubu of the APC as president-elect.
All right.
And what we expected.
I'd like to just come in here. Okay. I'd like to come in here. You have used so many words like illegitimate, illegal president. As you know, the case is in court. And we would like for you to indemnify yourself right now because, it's not on the platform that you would be declaring whether or not a president is legitimate or illegitimate. Indemnify us.
Practically, the rules are on ground. I know the case is in court.
Yes.
I think these are my words. It's not the words of your station. So I'm only opportune to be interviewed here. I'm just trying to let you know that the issues of this book talks about the discrepancies and the illegality of the declaration of results on people who didn't win elections, on people who did not make the requirements becoming what they contested for, which they were not even voted for. So practically, that statement is mine, and I know it's in court. I'm only telling you about what the Electoral Act has been able to put on ground for Nigerians to follow.
All right, Barry, that is understood. But even at that, yes, you are telling us what is contained in your book. But in saying that, you are on live television making statements that are rather outlandish. Yeah. This is why we're trying to caution you. Yes, you may indemnify us, but then we are even saying that as a political scientist that you claim to be, certain words and conclusions are not acceptable. And they may be beyond you because you do not have the competence, frankly speaking, to determine who won an election that you didn't conduct. INEC conducted the election, but you have, stated your views in the book. My worry, two things, is why atrocious Nigeria? Dictionary describes atrocious as something, as something of a very poor quality, extremely bad, or unpleasant. Is that your understanding of what happened in 2022, 2023? And does that make Nigeria as a country atrocious? And how can you make such conclusion when even those that you might think your book supports are in court? They have taken the proper route to challenge what they disagree with. But I cannot hear from any of those who lost elections describing their country or the process as atrocious.
My book, Atrocious Nigeria, does not support any politician. It does not support any political party. What it supports is good governance, quality leadership, and the respect for the rule of law in Nigeria. There was an election organized by an umpire called INEC. INEC has a rule in an electoral act via an electioneering program. You cannot be a judge in your own case, that is one. And two, you are expected as an umpire to follow the rule of the game. You don't need to let people start going to court and wasting resources of government. There's a law that says, do this and get this. You, as the central referee, have not been able to follow the law itself provided by law of the National Assembly and people who decided to make it a law by the government, by the president who signs and makes a bill into a law. We have to follow these laws. And this book is talking about the ills, the reason why we must follow the rules of the game of the politics of our country. This book is not about anybody. This book is not about any political party. This book is about the realities of the 2023 presidential elections, and we refuse that our children should read fake stories, lies that will be printed tomorrow. I am a major player in the electioneering process. I head the Vote Must Count International Initiative. We had agents in the 774 local government across Nigeria. We have the report of this election. We also follow the report of the European Union and all other civil society organizations. And we stand on the activities, the antecedents of the 2023 presidential election according to the reality of how it happened. We refuse for anyone to write or to note down informations that our children are expected to read and galvanize with the information that they need to get. So practically, the reasons why I've said that, I am banking on the Constitution and the Electoral Act of the country that gives INEC the opportunity to present an election. You cannot violate your own laws and don't want people to talk about it or don't want history to note it.
All right,
you are a Nigerian also as a media person. So now, can you tell me that these three people who they said took first, second, third, made the requirement provided by the Electoral Act to be declared as a president-elect? No. So why was anybody presented? And you ask the rest people to go to court. It's not even supposed to be a court issue if you look at it from the perspective of a country that is expected to respect the rule of law and the capacity of good governance. In a normal reality country, we expect the Inspector General of Police to invite the IG, to invite the INEC chairman, who comes to equity to state the reasons why he declared someone who did not meet requirements of the Electoral Act as president-elect.
All right,
in the
Barry.
IG's office, there is a Department of Legal Issues.
Just a moment, Barry, so that we are very clear and specific about what we are saying. Yes, you have published this book. These are your thoughts. So two clear things. You said that you had monitors across all the local government areas in Nigeria. I'd like to know which platform was that. Was it an NGO? And is there a report from that process that you can point us to? And secondly, when you say that INEC violated his own law by declaring a winner, what specific law or procedure of INEC are you referring to that wouldn't make Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu the president? If you are referring to the 25% that is said to be required for FCT, that's up to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
That's up to the Supreme Court to decide if 25% in FCT, after a candidate has scored 25, had won in more than 2/3 of the country, at least 24 states, if that is a necessity, is for the court to decide. I don't think that it is for individuals, to make categorical submissions about what is contained in the Constitution or the Electoral Act.
Okay, yes,
go on.
To please just give me an opportunity to say this. Do we have any Supreme Court case on the issue of the 25% of votes by a president-elect in the issue of President Olusegun Obasanjo and Muhammadu Buhari at the time? If you remember that case, that's a judgment. Every legal judgment or every legal case has a link, definitely with one time that it has happened. It has happened before between Obasanjo and Muhammadu Buhari. So practically, we don't, for the records, I don't think we need the courts to do this because it's already a judgment, except for another level of kind of judging that we want to introduce in our country on the issues of the 25% from the FCT. But on the issue of the monitoring,
what judgment,
I would like to tell you...
What judgment are you referring to? Sorry, Obasanjo versus Buhari. What was the judgment?
Yes. Yeah, I think the judgment was that you must have 25% of votes in the FCT. The meaning of "and" there, the whole world knows the meaning of "and." Even a primary school student in primary 2 or primary 1 should know what "and" is.
All right.
And it's not supposed to be what we are now fighting about. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
the issue of the monitoring of elections, I think we have the vote must count. VMCII, you could Google it and say VMCII, an independent electoral organization who I represent. We have this information of what happened in the election. And I tell you, we also have a superior body in the issues of the European Union who have results, who have report released for the whole world to see. So this case is not a case of whether somebody won an election or not. All we are saying is the right thing needs to be done, and we need to document this information for our children to be carried along with. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
You're absolutely right. The right thing needs to be done. Dr. Barry, the case is in court, and we hope for, all eyes on the judiciary. We hope that they do right by us. But let's go back to analyzing the elections, from party primaries to campaigning to policy debates and to INEC's voters registration. If you were to give your assessment on these events, what are the lessons or what reforms would you suggest that can further strengthen the 2027 polls so we don't see ourselves repeating what some have described as probably the worst election since Nigeria returned to democracy? You have described this as atrocious Nigeria. But last week, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu adjudged the 2023 election as the most credible in the history of Nigeria. I'd like your thoughts on that as well.
Well, I think Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu is an individual. He has the right as a Nigerian to also adjudge, but he is not Nigerian people. He is not the Nigerian people. He was only a candidate from a political party who ended up being declared and inaugurated and became president of Nigeria. That is his personal decision. But the decision of the Nigerian people is clear. The world could see that the discrepancies and the irregularities and the criminality of this 2023 presidential election is something that we must really consider and take into cognizance. My take on it is this. I think this is the end of the road for the rigging of elections in Nigeria. This is going to be the last time, by God's grace, for any election to be rigged by people who don't believe in true democracy and the respect for the rule of law. Reason why we are saying this is because we carried out a little research with what happened in the elections, and we confirmed that the Nigerian people have been able to build a third force against the political elites of Nigeria. Nigeria runs a two-party system by hook or by crook in the PDP and in the APC. Over the years, we have seen results. If the winner does not come from the APC, the loser comes from the APC, just like the same thing from the PDP. So practically, there is a new force created by the Nigerian people to help clean up the political system of Nigeria. We saw this vision started in the 2023 presidential election. We saw the group called the Obedience, who love good governance, quality leadership, and the respect of the rule of law. We saw when they were called just 4 people tweeted in a room. We saw when they adopted a political party presidential candidate. We saw when they came out to register as Nigerians to get their voters card. We also saw how they trooped out to vote for a candidate. And we saw how they have rejected the results released by INEC. Anyone who plays politics and refuses to understand that the Obedience is a force in Nigeria that will treat the menace of the criminality in our leadership, most especially the corruption that we have seen with so much baggage, then it means that you don't know politics. Politics is local.
All right.
The people who decided that Nigeria must change have been noticed. And I'm very, very sure that the 2027 general election in this country will be one of the best elections that we expect, because it is a clear way, it is a no-no, it is a refusal to electoral criminality in Nigeria. It has started and nobody can stop it.
All right, Barry Johnson, we want to thank you for joining us on the morning show today. Author of Atrocious Nigeria, that's what he calls his book.